Tmall and JD cost structure, please ping me privately. I'll be happy to share what that involves. That's really, the cost is a bad word.
Yeah.
It's really like, what is your business worth? And the cost to operate it is the percentage, right? Based on what scale it's at. So if you're gonna do 20 million RMB store, like one of my new clients, in year one, your cost of sales is, or basically your gross margin after expenses is about 72%, which I think is quite high. So they'll make like 20% net margin, something like this. So to me, it really depends on the scale and the activation level of your brand. There's really no fixed cost, right? I mean, to set up one of these is just a small deposit. You got to pay a percentage, and you have to invest, right? Yeah. It's not complicated.
Well, it's again your business model, right? So it has to be logged into your business. Right? Yeah. So I'm always looking at plan B, plan C, or keeping. But one thing that I will probably always have is 2 feet here in China. I still think there's a lot of opportunities, but you need to be quick and patient. That's a good one, quick and patient. And yes, Southeast Asia is important to explore. Yeah,
I think in my space, it's a no-brainer, right? The next 10 years of growth or 20 years is going to be in that area. So for me, it's a logical thing. Right now, the way I treat my life, because I live in Hong Kong and commute back here now, is essentially I go back to the future every time I get to Shanghai. And it's exciting as things here are just, I mean, the technology, the adoption levels and speed is impressive by any stretch of the imagination. And the biggest issue I see is all of these things are happening. So what I would say to you, and the best example I can give is, I am not nearly in the same business I was in China 20 years ago. And I have done it a lot, right? I've launched 6 companies and 3 of them have succeeded in that 7-figure plus range. And every one of them is very different. So it's temporal. It's kind of like Amelie's antique business, for example, was a small window that you had to get in, and you still had to be patient. You jump in, you make that money, and then it closes on you. And those windows close quick. So I think my message is, all of that is true with unfair advantages, but it's always been true. And I think you said this once to me. I love this. Like, if you can get over the fact that in every industry or business here, that 95% of it's going to go to the locals, and you're comfortable with 5%, you can make a lot of money. And we're actually sitting in a building by another member of EO, who's a very good friend of both of us, me in particular. And he's launched a completely new business, reinvented himself in the last year and a half. And it's going to be a super competitive space. And the answer to that is, he's now got a great partner, he's got the resources, and he's actually got the locals on his side. I think that's the main, and he's in an area that's highly regulated. So it's, he's moved ahead of the curve, he got in early, was patient for the years of the build, and then now he's ahead of everyone about 6 to 9 months. So he's got a little bit of a market lead. And I think if you're nimble and you can move quickly and pounce on those opportunities and then be patient when the category or the timing catches up, I think you can do very well here still.
Yeah, and I truly believe—
But you have to shift, right? You have to shift.
Exactly. You have to shift. It's super important, and you have to understand and accept and respect that China belongs to Chinese.
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing about Southeast Asia that's interesting, I've heard from a couple of my clients, some bigger companies, is what they say is that China sucks the life out of everything around it, right? The Chinese consumers are sophisticated, educated, and they have a lot of money, right? They have a huge wallets. And so they are basically impacting everything in Southeast Asia while those economies are also growing. So I think that's an interesting play that you could, I guess, technically shift a China-focused consumer-based business out of China and do extremely well. I think thinking about how you activate the bridge between China and outside of China in Southeast Asia and other parts of the world is really a low-risk way to access the growth without dealing with local competitors. And by nature of the double-edged sword, it's tough here. But imagine that the Chinese are coming outbound, how difficult it is for them to expand because of the communication barriers and cultural language barriers. And I think they're going to go through the same struggles that we did trying to get in the last 30 years coming out. And I think that's a big opportunity for everyone. Would you agree?
Yeah.